Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 61 deals with property owners' rights. Senate Bill 61 amends KRS to specify that a Class A or Class B public pool does not include a pool located on the same plot as a single-family residence intended for the use of the owner or their guest, regardless of whether the guest gained use of the private single-family residence pool through a sharing platform or pay a fee for the use of that pool. Mr. Speaker, I would like to now yield to the gentleman from Oldham, please.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Oldham, 59.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, gentleman from Christian. Chair, Clerk, report House Floor Amendment 3, please.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Floor Amendment 3 to Senate Bill 61.
Gentleman from Oldham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. House Floor Amendment 3, I think, strikes a very delicate balance between the ability to regulate and the preservation of private property rights. It ultimately, or basically, prevents local governments from arbitrarily banning short-term rentals. Does not prevent them from passing ordinances, does not prevent them from regulating, but it does prevent arbitrary bans. And I know that a lot of our communities have faced problems with short-term rentals over the last couple of years, and some very significant problems that local governments have to deal with and are dealing with. And so they should be allowed to regulate them. They should be able to pass ordinances relating to them. But at the same time, they also have to respect the private property rights of property owners. You know, I think property rights is one of the most sacred rights that we are granted under our Constitution. You know, the Fifth Amendment prohibits government from taking property without compensation, prohibits them from taking property rights without due process. And I think in extreme measures, this is happening in some areas of the Commonwealth. If you buy a property, if you mortgage a property, if you develop a plan around how to pay for a piece of property that has certain rights inherent in it when you buy that property, and that ability to do that is taken away, that is the taking of a property right. Now, specifically, the amendment itself says that you cannot base restrictions solely on density, solely on the distance apart that they may be, solely on the percentage of houses in a particular area. It just says that if you can point to a reason why those things are problematic, then you can regulate them based on those things, but they cannot be solely based on those individual problems. They have the ability to, this amendment will allow them to have the ability to issue conditional use permits. Those conditional use permits are revocable at will for cause. Cannot restrict the number of applicants, can certainly revoke those conditional use permits anytime that any violation is found. And they can prevent, they can absolutely consider in those things the protection of public health related to fire and building safety, sanitation, transportation, traffic issues, pollution control, residential uses relating to zoning, like noise, protection and welfare, property maintenance, nuisance. They can limit things based on the age of renters, the number of occupants. Anything that is empirical, they can limit except the arbitrary ban of the use of property for this purpose. And I know that as I said, obviously a lot of our communities have battled these problems, but there are a lot of good actors in this space too. There are a lot of good actors that simply like to have the extra income and the ability to supplement their ownership of their property. And for those good actors, they can't be we cannot take their property rights away from them and penalize them because there's some bad actors in the space. We need to get to the bad actors, penalize the bad actors, put the bad actors out of business, and allow the good actors to continue to utilize their property with every right that they were granted when they bought the property. In constructing this, there have been multiple versions of this amendment. You notice there's also House Floor Amendment 2. After consultation with the City of Lexington, City of Louisville, League of Cities, we made some changes to clarify the authorities that they have. Those are incorporated into House Floor Amendment 3. And I believe that this is a good balance between protecting communities and protecting property rights. You know, there have been a number of these things that have been litigated around the country. They've yet to get to an appellate level here in Kentucky, but a number of these restrictions have been litigated around the country, and in many instances, those things have been overturned by appellate courts because they've been deemed as the taking of property rights. Now, I know that a lot of you have been bombarded by Kentucky League of Cities, by the KTIA. I will tell you, the League of Cities and KTIA is not being paid to protect your property rights. But every one of us in this room have been elected to protect the property rights of our constituents. And I believe this draws that balance, and so therefore I move for adoption of House Floor Amendment 3.